As tensions between the United States and China escalate over trade, high-stakes negotiations are unfolding in Geneva this weekend with the potential to reshape the economic landscape of both nations and the global market. The meetings, which began on Saturday, mark a crucial moment for two of the world's largest economies as they navigate a complex web of tariffs and retaliatory measures that have led to significant economic disruption. President Donald Trump has characterized the discussions as a total reset in U.S.-China relations, asserting on social media that the talks have been constructive. "A very good meeting today with China," Trump stated following the first day of negotiations, emphasizing that many issues were discussed and agreements reached. However, the specifics of these agreements remain undisclosed, leaving analysts and investors cautiously optimistic about the outcomes. The current trade relationship is strained, with both countries imposing heavy tariffs that have effectively created a trade embargo. Trump has levied tariffs as high as 145% on Chinese imports, while China has retaliated with import taxes reaching 125% on American goods. Economists have warned that such punitive measures are not only detrimental to bilateral trade but could also slow global economic growth and exacerbate inflation. As companies scramble to adjust to these new realities, many are grappling with the decision to pass increased costs onto consumers, potentially leading to price hikes and empty shelves. Key players in the negotiations include U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, who have been vocal about the unsustainable nature of current tariff levels. On the Chinese side, Vice Premier Lifeng leads the discussions, closely aligned with President Xi Jinping's economic policies. The Chinese government has expressed its determination to protect its economic interests, stating that whether through confrontation or negotiation, its stance will not waver. While there is hope for de-escalation, experts caution that a comprehensive trade agreement is unlikely to emerge from this weekend's talks. Historical data suggests that U.S. trade agreements typically take an average of 18 months to negotiate, and any significant reduction in tariffs would require substantial concessions from both sides. Trump has indicated a willingness to lower tariffs to 80% contingent on progress made during negotiations, but his administration has emphasized that China must first demonstrate goodwill. As the discussions continue, the broader implications of a potential agreement, or lack thereof, could reverberate throughout global supply chains. American businesses have already begun diversifying their sourcing strategies away from China, while Chinese manufacturers are exploring new markets in Southeast Asia as a way to circumvent U.S. tariffs. The ongoing trade conflict has not only disrupted traditional trade routes but has also led to increased uncertainty in financial markets, prompting investors to closely monitor the developments in Geneva. Looking ahead, the outcome of this weekend's negotiations could set the tone for future economic interactions between the U.S. and China. While immediate resolutions may be limited, any movement toward a de-escalation of tariffs could provide much-needed relief for consumers and businesses alike. As both nations grapple with the consequences of their trade policies, the world will be watching closely, anticipating the next steps in what has become a defining issue of our times. The stakes are high, and the implications of these talks could shape the economic landscape for years to come. In a critical moment for global trade, U.S. and Chinese officials convened in Geneva this weekend for high-stakes tariff discussions amid ongoing tensions that have significantly impacted economies worldwide. As the second day of negotiations commenced, participants expressed divergent perspectives on the progress of talks that could shape the future of international commerce. President Donald Trump, taking to social media, claimed that great progress was being made, even hinting at a potential total reset of the trade relationship. "We are on the right track," he asserted, suggesting an optimistic outlook for the negotiations. This sentiment, however, was met with a stern response from Beijing. China's official news agency warned against any proposals that might compromise its core principles, emphasizing the importance of global equity in trade discussions. Despite Trump's claims, the first day of talks yielded no breakthroughs after 10 hours of deliberation. Reports indicate that the atmosphere in Geneva was tense, with U.S. officials expressing caution about the outcomes. Two anonymous sources confirmed that discussions resumed Sunday morning without any significant updates from the previous day. This lack of transparency has led to uncertainties in global markets where shipping containers laden with goods from China remain in limbo awaiting clarity on tariff decisions. The stakes are undeniably high. Last month, Trump escalated U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods to a staggering 145%, prompting a retaliatory 125% levy from Beijing. Such extreme tariffs have effectively created an economic boycott between the two nations, disrupting a trade relationship that exceeded $660 billion in the previous year. With both sides entrenched in their positions, the path to de-escalation appears fraught with challenges. The U.S. negotiating team, led by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, brought a strategy aimed at initiating mutual steps toward de-escalation. White House officials have emphasized that these talks are distinct from other ongoing negotiations with various countries, with a specific focus on addressing key issues such as the flow of fentanyl from China into the United States. This talk is about, can we get to a stable place, and maybe that's a foundation for something more, Greer stated, reflecting a cautious but hopeful approach. Jake Werner, director of the East Asia program at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, underscored the importance of these negotiations, stating negotiations to begin de-escalating the growing U.S.-China trade war are badly needed. He expressed optimism that even minor concessions like a simultaneous reduction in tariffs could help rebuild trust and restore market confidence. The negotiations mark a notable shift from previous months where communication breakdowns left Chinese officials frustrated and confused about U.S. intentions. The current atmosphere, described as one of respect and collegiality, reflects a newfound willingness from both sides to engage meaningfully. As U.S. officials remain vigilant about China's economic resilience, they believe that a prolonged trade war could be unsustainable for Beijing. Looking ahead, the outcome of these discussions remains uncertain. While Trump's fixation on achieving a monumental deal with China has been a hallmark of his presidency, the complexities of global trade dynamics present formidable hurdles. As both nations navigate this delicate landscape, the world watches closely, hopeful for a resolution that could stabilize not just U.S.-China relations, but the broader global economy as well. Future talks will undoubtedly hinge on the ability of leaders to balance national interests with the pressing need for international cooperation in an increasingly interconnected world. In a pivotal moment for international trade relations, high-level talks between the United States and China commenced in Geneva on Saturday, marking the first such meeting since the imposition of sweeping tariffs by former President Donald Trump. As the world watches closely, the outcome of these negotiations could have far-reaching implications for the global economy, which has already felt the tremors of the ongoing trade conflict. The negotiations, led by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and China's Vice Premier Lifeng, aim to address the tariffs that have drastically altered trade dynamics between the two largest economies. Following Trump's aggressive stance, tariffs on Chinese imports soared to 145%. With China retaliating with its own levies of 125% on U.S. goods. This tit-for-tat has effectively curtailed trade, raising concerns about a potential global economic downturn. The stakes are high, and while expectations for a comprehensive breakthrough remain low, the mere fact that the two nations are engaging in dialogue has sparked cautious optimism among economists and investors. President Trump characterized the initial discussions as very good, expressing hope for a reset in U.S.-China relations. Many things discussed, much agreed to, he tweeted, emphasizing the need for an opening up of China to American business. However, analysts suggest that the talks may focus more on establishing each side's priorities rather than yielding immediate results. Ishwar Prasad, a former director at the International Monetary Fund, noted both the U.S. and China have strong economic and financial interests in de-escalating their trade hostilities. But a durable détente is hardly in the offing. The urgency of these negotiations is underscored by recent economic data. On the eve of the talks, China reported a staggering 21% decline in exports to the U.S. for April, a clear indication of the tariffs' impact. American businesses, particularly those reliant on Chinese imports, are grappling with increased costs and market uncertainty. As Jonathan Gold of the National Retail Federation pointed out, we are starting to see the true impact of President Trump's tariffs on the supply chain, suggesting that consumers will face higher prices and reduced product availability. While there are calls for tariff reductions such as Trump's suggestion of lowering tariffs to 80%, the realities of these negotiations are complex. The Trump administration has accused China of unfair trade practices and flooding the market with subsidized goods. Meanwhile, China has firmly resisted making concessions under pressure, with officials urging the U.S. to engage on equal footing. Lifeng, a spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington, stated if the U.S. genuinely wants a negotiated solution, it should stop making threats and exerting pressure. As the second day of negotiations unfolds, the focus may shift to more concrete proposals, with experts suggesting that a reduction in tariffs to around 20% could facilitate more constructive discussions. Such a move would not only help stabilize global supply chains but also mitigate the economic strain felt on both sides. The World Trade Organization has expressed concern that the ongoing trade war could lead to a significant drop in global GDP, particularly affecting the world's poorest nations. China's economic landscape is also showing signs of strain, with recent reports indicating a worrying deflationary trend. The Consumer Price Index (CPI) fell by 0.1% in April, and the Producer Price Index (PPI) dropped by 2.7%, reflecting a lack of consumer confidence. As Beijing attempts to pivot towards domestic consumption, the challenges of a shrinking export market loom large. Analysts warn that without a resolution to the trade conflict, both countries may face dire economic consequences, including increased unemployment and business insolvencies. Looking ahead, the outcome of these talks will not only shape U.S.-China relations but will also influence the trajectory of the global economy. As both nations navigate their intertwined economic realities, the potential for a trade deal could provide a pathway to mutual benefit if political will allows for cooperation. The world waits to see if this dialogue can indeed translate into tangible changes that will alleviate the burdens of tariffs and restore balance to the international trading system. In a rapidly evolving global landscape marked by technological advancements and geopolitical tensions, military strategies are undergoing significant transformations. The U.S. Marine Corps has recently established a dedicated attack drone team amid this backdrop, emphasizing the urgent need to adapt to new warfare paradigms. This initiative is a response to increasing advancements in armed drone technology, particularly from adversaries such as Russia and China, which have raised concerns about the United States' position in the drone arms race. The Marine Corps Attack Drone Team (CAD), located at the Weapons Training Battalion in Quantico, Virginia, is set to leverage first-person view FPV drone technology that offers squad-level lethality at ranges of up to 20 kilometers, all for a remarkably low cost of under $5,000. According to Major Alejandro Tavison, the officer in charge of CAD, this initiative aims to integrate these drones into the Fleet Marine Force (FMF) to enhance combat capabilities that are currently lacking. By leveraging emerging technologies and refining drone employment tactics, we are ensuring that Marines remain agile, adaptive, and lethal in the modern battlespace, Tavison stated. The urgency of this development is underscored by insights from Brett Velikovich, an Army veteran and drone expert, who pointed out that the U.S. has fallen behind in low-cost, highly scalable drone technology. He highlighted the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, where domestic drone production has surged, allowing Ukrainian forces to successfully target high-value Russian assets with relatively inexpensive drones. This has prompted Velikovich and others to advocate for a shift in U.S. military thinking, seeing drones not just as surveillance tools but as integral components of combat strategy. As the U.S. military gears up for this technological shift, it faces significant competition. Reports indicate that Russia has ramped up its drone production, delivering over 1.5 million drones last year, including thousands of FPV drones specifically designed for frontline use. Meanwhile, China continues to dominate the global drone market, with companies like DJI controlling over 70% of the market share. Craig Singleton, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, warned that the widespread use of DJI drones poses a national security risk as they could serve as data collectors for the Chinese government. China's military strategy, as outlined in a recent U.S. Army intelligence report, emphasizes a combination of defensive and offensive operations leveraging advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and cyber warfare to enhance its capabilities. The report, titled "How China Fights in Large-Scale Combat Operations," highlights the potential challenges posed by China's military modernization efforts, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. Analysts express concern over China's vast numerical superiority, especially in the context of a potential conflict over Taiwan, where the People's Liberation Army (PLA) could outnumber Taiwanese forces significantly. As global military dynamics shift and the technological landscape continues to evolve, the establishment of the Marine Corps' drone team is not just a tactical response but a crucial step towards ensuring that U.S. forces remain competitive. With the upcoming Military Drone Crucible Championship set to take place in Florida, where Marines and Army Rangers will showcase their drone capabilities, the emphasis on training and innovation will be critical. In conclusion, as the U.S. navigates the complexities of modern warfare characterized by rapid technological advancements and fierce competition from adversaries, the integration of drone technology into military strategy will likely play a pivotal role in shaping future combat scenarios. The ability to scale production and refine tactics will be paramount as the U.S. endeavors to maintain its strategic edge in an increasingly drone-centric battlefield. As the U.S. and China enter the second day of high-stakes trade negotiations in Geneva, the stakes have never been higher for both nations and the global economy. The urgency of these talks stems from the ongoing trade war that has seen both countries impose tariffs on each other's goods, leading to significant disruptions across global supply chains. With many watching closely for signs of a breakthrough, the talks reflect a critical juncture in the relationship between the world's two largest economies. The negotiations feature key figures from both sides, including U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier Lifeng, who have engaged in discussions aimed at de-escalating the tensions exacerbated by tariffs that have soared to record levels. On Saturday, after 8 hours of closed-door discussions, President Donald Trump hailed the meetings as a total reset of U.S.-China trade relations, expressing optimism about the progress made. In a post on Truth Social, he stated, "We want to see for the good of both China and the U.S. an opening up of China to American business." Despite the upbeat tone from the U.S. administration, the reality remains complex. As of Sunday evening, no concrete agreements had been reached and both sides have downplayed expectations of a comprehensive trade deal. Analysts caution that while the mere act of resuming talks is a positive development for financial markets, significant obstacles remain. Citigroup's global chief economist Nathan Sheets remarked that the current state of relations, characterized by high tariffs, is ultimately detrimental to both economies, a lose-lose proposition. The background of these negotiations is a series of tariffs that have escalated throughout the year, with U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports reaching as high as 145%. In retaliation, China has imposed its own tariffs, with some categories soaring to 125%. The economic implications of these measures have been severe, leading experts to warn that even a reduction to 80% tariffs would still present substantial barriers for trade. Chinese state media has criticized the U.S. administration's approach, labeling the reckless abuse of tariffs as destabilizing for the global economic order. However, there is a shared acknowledgement that these negotiations represent a necessary step towards resolving ongoing differences. As the talks continue, both sides are navigating a delicate balance, with the U.S. insisting on concessions from China while China demands a reduction in tariffs as a prerequisite for any meaningful agreement. Amid the backdrop of these trade discussions, global economic dynamics are also shifting. China's recent economic performance, particularly a surge in exports, has raised questions about the long-term viability of the U.S. strategy. Experts suggest that China may be better equipped to withstand the pressures of the trade war, as evidenced by its ability to reroute trade to other markets in Southeast Asia. As the world waits anxiously for updates from Geneva, the implications of these talks extend beyond the immediate economic landscape. A failure to reach a consensus could prolong the trade war, exacerbating tensions not only between the US and China but also among their global trading partners. Conversely, a successful negotiation could pave the way for a new chapter in US-China relations, potentially stabilizing the global economy. Looking ahead, the next steps taken by both nations in the coming days will be crucial. The outcome of these discussions could either signal a thaw in relations or entrench the ongoing conflict, setting the stage for a future defined by either cooperation or continued rivalry. As analysts monitor the developments, the question remains: will both sides find common ground, or will the trade war continue to escalate, reshaping international economic dynamics for years to come?